This presentation will discuss how to build educational resources from existing open content using PDF and Word. A separate presentation will look at how to curate using web-based tools such as Pressbooks. Here, we'll also look at how to create accessible Word and PDF documents. I'm Suzanne Joachim. I'm the OER coordinator for Butte Community College in Northern California. In some cases, OER providers have editing tools built right in. And for those, that may be your most direct route for curation. The example here shows the table of contents for a textbook, and I can change this by moving chapters around, deleting chapters, or editing them. The editing tools are quite intuitive. However, they don't provide a lot of formatting options, and they can be a little bit clunky. This is another example of a curation resource. And what this shows is one of the advantages of these options, which is that I can search for content and find a lot of smaller resources that I can pull together for my resources. These options are great, but they may not always be available. For example, the resource you may be interested in might only be available as a PDF. Or you may want to pull together resources from many different places. Or you may just want more editing options. This is what we'll look at next. If the resource you are interested in is available as a PDF, the ideal situation is to download the PDF document. If you can't download it, you can print it by saving to PDF rather than selecting a printer, or you can even cut and paste. However, before you do any of that, make sure that the license allows for the adaptations. The example here shows some content that I found, and the attribution at the bottom shows that the license for this content is CC BY. This means that I am allowed to adapt it. For more information about licenses, there is another presentation in this course. When you download the PDF document, the first thing you want to do is make sure what you have is text rather than an image. The example at the bottom looks like text, but this is actually a picture of text. You can see the difference when you click and drag. What you'll notice is if it's text, you'll get long highlights of the text. If it's an image, you'll get a highlighting box. Adobe does have the ability to convert images to text using optical character recognition. To do this, go to Tools, Enhance Scan, and Recognize Text. The Adobe OCR program is quite powerful, however, you want to go back through and make sure there aren't any errors. Once you have the text document, you can now export it to Word for further editing. To do that, go to File, Export to Microsoft Word, and select the format. If the PDF document you have is really large, you may need to split it up into smaller files to be able to export. And in some cases, cutting and pasting from PDF into Word is actually better. It really just depends, and you want to try out different versions to see what works best. Once you have the document in Word, you can now begin editing it. What we're going to focus on here is how to create an accessible Word document through the editing process. What we'll look at is using styles and using alt text. These aren't the only considerations, but they're a good place to start. You may also want to talk to your accessibility specialist for additional considerations and to get some feedback. Let's start with headings. What we have here is a document that looks to have some really nice navigation. This content at the top is clearly my title. It's big, bold, and centered. Here's my top level heading, parts 1 and 2, and then subheadings under each part. Now, this navigation is visible to sighted individuals, but it's not visible to a screen reader. This would be kind of like me emphasizing what I'm saying by waving my hands, which I'm actually doing, but you can't see that, and so it's not helpful. Similarly, screen readers don't recognize font sizes, nor do they recognize things like underline and italic. To provide navigation, what you'll need to do is use headings. To do that, you would highlight the text and go up to the Styles area where you can select if it's a title, a top level heading, a second level heading, a third level heading, and so on. So you can see here, this is my title, here's my top level headings in larger font, and my subheadings in smaller font. What's nice about using the headings from Microsoft is you can see here in the navigation area, I now have a very clear outline, whereas before I did not have an outline in the navigation area. To get to the navigation area, select Control F and then select Headings. One of the additional advantages of using headings is that you can actually create hyperlinks within the Word document. So if I have a textbook, my first few pages may be a table of contents where students can click on Part 1 and it takes them to that chapter. To do this, I would highlight Part 1 of my table of contents, go to Insert, Links, Hyperlink. That'll open this window. Here, select Bookmark, and that'll open this window where you can select where you want that click to take someone. Now these options here are all the headings you have in the document, and you won't have any options if you don't use the headings style. One of the drawbacks with the headings in Word is that they're pretty ugly. Now that's a personal preference, but they're not something that I like. I want my documents to have a very specific look, and we can do that. So if we go back to the original document that looks the way I want but doesn't have the appropriate navigation, what I would do to get the proper navigation is highlight my title, go to the Style area, right-click on Title, and then select Update Title to match. From here on out in the document, anytime I select Title, I will get this formatting. Similarly, I do that for my top-level headings and my second-level headings. Now, if I want this formatting to carry over into all future documents, I'll need to create a theme. To do that, go to Design, then Theme, then save the current theme and give it a title. From here on out, anytime I open a new document, I select that theme and the formatting is exactly the way I want it. The other important consideration in styles is bold versus emphasis. Bold is a font consideration, so it's not something that screen readers will recognize. A sighted individual will see that this is bold and that means something, so this is either emphasized or it's important in some way. In order to have that same designation recognized by the screen reader, you'll want to go to Styles and select either Strong if you want something bolded, or Emphasis if you want it italicized. The other options here will give you variations of bold and italics, underline, and so on. But you'll want to use these options rather than Control-B or Control-I. The next consideration is alt text. Alt text is important because screen readers can't see pictures. So we can see that this is a cant in mint, but if we want the screen reader to recognize that, we need to provide alt text. To do that, you would right-click on the image, select Format Picture, go to Alt Text, and write the alt text in the description, so cat in mint. Don't put anything in the title, it's not recognized by the screen readers. The alt text should go in the description. So now when the screen reader is moving along, this is what it'll read when it gets to that image. Now that's a lot of clicks for each picture, but you can shorten this by putting the alt text icon up in your quick access toolbar. To do that, go to this arrow here, select More Commands, that'll open this window, select Quick Access Toolbar, All Commands, and this will give you all the possible commands you can put in the toolbar in alphabetical order. Select Alt Text by clicking Add, that'll move it to this area, and click OK. So now I have a single click to take me to where I can type my alt text. In addition to accessibility considerations, I also want to create documents that have a certain look to them. So I may want the images in certain places. You can do that with Word by selecting the image, going to Format, and this gives you options for how the images are formatted within the text area. So Word does have some formatting options, but it doesn't have a whole lot. If you want a slightly more professional looking resource, you want to use Microsoft Publisher. This gives me a few more options, so you can notice here I have multiple columns, and I have a few more options for formatting the image. However, this doesn't give me a whole lot more options. if you want a truly professional looking textbook, you'll need to go to Adobe's InDesign. And the advantage to this is that it has a lot more options. The disadvantage is that it has a lot more options. This can take quite a bit to learn, and it can be a little bit cumbersome. So in the end, it comes down to how much time you want to spend on the resource. The example here shows my textbook that I built using Word, and the formatting isn't perfect, but it's good enough for our needs. Next, once I've created the document, I want to make sure it's accessible. To do that, you want to go to File, Info, check for issues, check accessibility. That'll give you this accessibility report. And notice here the errors are things like missing alt text. So none of my images have alt text. That's a problem. I will need to go back and fix that. There's also a few warnings, and the warnings can get a little bit overwhelming. If you have the opportunity to take this to an accessibility specialist, they can help you understand which of these have to be fixed and which can maybe wait until later. But a good place to start is make sure you don't have any errors. Once I have a document that I'm happy with, I can now save it as a PDF. There's a couple of different ways to do this. You can save as PDF, you can print to PDF, but really the best way to do that is to select File, Save and Send, Create Adobe PDF. This will ensure that the navigation and the alt text carries over into my PDF document. So you can see here's my PDF document, here's my navigation that I built earlier, and here's the alt text that I have for my images. You can also check the PDF document for accessibility. If you've already checked it in Word, you don't need to do this again, but if you're using a document that you found as a PDF, you want to go through this check to make sure that what you have is accessible. To do that, go to Tools, Accessibility, Full Check. That'll open this window. You can leave it as is and select Enter, and that'll give you an accessibility report. Notice the green checks are things I did well, but I do have a couple of errors. The way to fix these errors is to right-click on whatever error you have. So if I right-click on Title, I get this little box, and I can select Fix. Adobe will now take me to where I can fix the issue. So I can type the title in here, click OK, and now I've solved that problem. Similarly for any missing alt text, right-click, select Fix. That'll open this box, and notice that this image here is highlighted. So I create my alt text for that image, select Next, create the alt text for the next image, select Next, and so on. So Adobe makes it really easy to make accessible documents. Once I've done that, I may want to rebuild my entire textbook. So at the beginning, if I started with a very large file and I split it up to export it into Word, I now want to combine these all together. To do that, select this multiple page icon here, select here, Insert Pages from File. That'll open this dialog box where you can navigate to where the file is. So here's my next file that I want to insert, and I want to insert it after the first page. Or I could insert it after the last page. There's some nice options here. That'll allow me the ability to combine many files together into a single PDF document. Finally, I may want to add hyperlinks as well. Now the hyperlinks that I created earlier in Word don't seem to carry over in the PDF, so if your final product is a PDF, you may want to wait to do that here. So to create hyperlinks within a PDF, go to Tools, Content Editing, Add or Edit Link. That'll allow you to highlight where the original click is. So in my table of contents, I would highlight Chapter 1, and when I do that, it'll give me this option here. And then I can scroll to where I want Chapter 1's link to go. So in my table of contents, I highlight Chapter 1, and then I scroll all the way to Chapter 1 and select Set Link. At that point, when students click on the Chapter 1 in the table of contents, they'll go to that chapter in the book. At this point, you have a complete and accessible document that you can share with students.